We're going to start first with a couple of videos. We have a video from the candidate who's for Superintendent of Public Instruction, Richard Barrera. Don't start it yet, Joel, please. And then we'll have one from Dave Min. And then after the two videos, each candidate will give an opening statement of 3 minutes and then has 1 minute to answer each of 2 questions that Mickey will be asking. And then finally, each candidate will end with a closing statement of 2 minutes. Following candidates, we will talk about ballot propositions. On your table, there is a summary of the 14 ballot propositions, what they are, who's for them, who's against them, and how we think we're going to vote on them. So we'll hear more from Jonathan Adler. Josh Newman will also be speaking on one of the propositions. Okay, let's get started. First video. Richard Barrera, candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Hi, I'm Richard Barrera, and I am honored to have the endorsement of the California Democratic Party in my race for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I'm honored because Democrats believe in our public schools. We know, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, that our public schools are the most important institution in our democracy. And that's because we believe that our public schools should be safe, welcoming spaces for all of our young people, including our immigrant students, including our LGBTQ students, including our students of color. We believe that we should support our educators, that the people who are doing the most important work in our society to create positive futures for young people should be able to afford to live in the communities in which they teach and in the schools that they work. So we support increasing salaries for educators. We support providing full family health benefits for our educators. And Democrats also know that in the 4th wealthiest economy in the world, the way that we create a strong economy moving forward is by investing in our public schools. California should have the greatest public schools in the world. We have the resources in this state to make that happen. We have the values in this state where we actually believe in public education. And it's time to create California public schools that we can be proud of for future generations. We also know as Democrats that we are up against a full-fledged assault on public education. Coming from the Trump administration, coming from MAGA Republicans, we have people who want to really privatize our public schools, attack our students, and bring us down to a level where our democracy no longer functions because we don't have a strong public school system. That's what we're up against in this election. That's why this is such an important race. The stakes couldn't be higher. It's about a vision of opportunity for our young people through a strong, powerful public school system versus a vision of turning our backs on young people and our families and what has always made California the greatest state in this country. I look forward to working with you, Democrats, to working in our communities to make sure that we get the word out and to know this is about a choice that we're making. Great public schools that can create opportunities for young people to make our world a better place going forward versus attacks on our young people, attacks on our public education system that would move us backward. As Democrats, we know what that choice should be, and we've got to make sure that we let voters know what that choice is as well. Thank you.
The playbook for a freshman member of Congress, particularly one who just won one of the closest races in the country as I did in 24, is pretty laid out. You're supposed to keep a low profile, not raise any waves, focus on raising money and defending the seat. But as it became clear in the opening hours of the Trump administration, when he fired 19 inspectors general, when he hired illegally Elon Musk to go out and illegally fire thousands of federal employees and go in and redirect funds that Congress had appropriated, I think it became clear at that moment that we were seeing something very different than we'd ever seen in America before. And so I made the case to our leadership on the Democratic side that I needed to be outspoken. And I think if you've been following me, you've seen that whether it was coming out aggressively and authoring the first bill trying to fire Elon Musk from the federal government, the Bad Doge Act, whether it was going after the illegal weaponization of the federal agencies against law firms, against private companies, against media companies and the like, whether it was the illegal activities and brutality and immorality of ICE, or the Iran war, or on and on and on, you've seen me being extremely outspoken and trying to do all we can to slow this thing down. And I've become convinced over the last year and a half that what we are seeing right now in real time is Donald Trump and, more importantly, his inner circle trying to create here in America what we've seen unfold in other countries, in places like Turkey, in places like Hungary, in places like Venezuela. They are clearly following an authoritarian playbook. And so I've had the privilege over the last year of working with and talking to a lot of authoritarianism experts. And they've all been very clear. They believe America can be saved, but we need to take drastic action. We need to step up and fight back with everything we have. But we have to go further. And I think we have to win this election. But what Timothy Snyder told a group of us is something like the following. I believe you're going to win this upcoming 2026 election because Donald Trump is so unpopular. And yes, he will do everything to try to lie, cheat, and steal, because that's what authoritarians do. But I think you're going to win back the House and maybe even the Senate this year. But he also cautioned that if you Democrats do what you always do, which is nothing, you push for incremental change after you get elected, you will lose again. And the next time you lose will be the last time. And so I want to leave you with those words because we have a lot of work to do. I think as I get around, even here in Orange County, and I talk to people, so many people right now believe that the American experiment is one that is dead. They don't believe in the American dream. There's a sense of urgency that particularly young people have, that they will not have it better than their parents, that they will never be able to afford to buy a home, that they can't afford to raise kids. They don't believe that this country offers them any kind of opportunity. And unless we are listening, and whether it's the DSA elections that are happening across the country, whether it's Trump's two elections in 2016 and 24, we should be taking heed of that warning that I think it's long past time that the Democratic Party push for incremental change. We have to now adapt, and these don't have to be radical solutions, but we need to be bold and aggressive in how we talk about the situations that average Americans face and the solutions that we're offering politically. And I lived through 2018, as I know a lot of you did, and engagement right now is clearly much higher than it was in 2018. And if we keep that momentum up, I believe we can enact the fundamental changes we need to not just push back Donald Trump, but to transform this country, to make people believe again in America, to give them hope. I believe we can do all that. But it starts now. It starts with this election. We have a chance to reclaim part of our country right now and to stop the fascism that we're seeing in this country.
Thank you, Congressman Dave Min. And now for real people. Our candidates tonight, first up will be Shaheen Sheikh Zadal, who's running for Laguna Beach Unified School District, and we welcome her to come speak for 3 minutes.
My email said 2.5 minutes, so I might be even shorter. It's nice to see you all here. My name is Shaheen Sheikh Zadal, and I am running for Laguna Beach Unified District School Board. I am a mom, first and foremost. I have 2 kiddos, a rising 8th grader and a rising 11th grader, and they start school on Thursday, so whew. I am a product of public school from middle school all the way through college, all the way through law school, and I'm incredibly proud of that fact. I talk about public school as both a lifeboat when things were hard for me and a rocket ship. I am an attorney, I would say, successful by my standards, and I run my own law firm that helps support entrepreneurs as they grow. And I also have had the privilege of being a servant leader in our school district for the last 10 years as the PTA president for 4 years, both at the elementary school and the middle school. One of those years was during COVID, so it was kind of a heavy lift for sure. We also have a foundation in our district called School Power, and I was a trustee with my husband there for 4 years. He also still sits on the endowment there at School Power, and also the former founding president of Families Unified for Education Laguna, which is an advocacy organization in Laguna Beach, really meant to help educate our community about what our public school districts should be and how they can be best serving our students. As I mentioned, my day job is that I'm a lawyer, and I bring all of those skills to the work that I want to do as school board member. So my top 3 priorities that I wanted to mention, we've had a rough 18 months at our school district in terms of where the board is. The trust between our staff and our school board members has been eroded to the point where our unions have voted twice, so both unions have voted twice as a 95% vote of no confidence in this particular school board. So my first priority is to bring back that trust to our staff and our students and our board. The next thing I want to do is make sure that all of our kiddos feel seen and supported and empowered to learn. That means not just the high-achieving kids, but also those quiet kids in the back who often get unseen in our schools. And then the third priority for me is really making sure that we have a strong K through 12 education ladder, as I call it, that's built and we're ready for an AI-powered future. So responsible and ethical use of technology and making sure our kids' critical thinking isn't sacrificed with the technology that they're facing. So that's it. I think I've got a card that says I'm almost running out of time. 0. Okay. So I'll take a couple of questions.
Yeah. Okay. So you told us a little bit about being head of PTA and all of those wonderful groups that you did. What lessons did you learn when you were the head of those organizations?
How much work goes on behind the scenes and how incredible our staff is, how much they give of themselves for our children. That's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was how energized our community and our parents are and how much they support our students in our district. When those things are working together, it's really a beautiful, magical thing that happens when everybody kind of stays in their lane and kind of helps and supports each other. It is, by all sense, I've watched it happen, but also the data shows that it is the best thing for our students and for their success. So that's the kind of stuff that I got to witness firsthand, and it was really beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So let's see. What would you do to improve student outcomes?
Our district does a really good job, actually. We have something called a multi-tier support system. So we catch the kids that are, quote, falling behind or need some extra support. And of course, our kids that are high achieving, they have all the resources they need to kind of work the system and be successful. So when I talk about this kind of middle group of students, I do wonder, maybe we were doing wonderful things with them, but I do wonder if we can do more to either cultivate their intellectual curiosities and help kind of challenge them and support them in a different way. Yeah.
30 seconds. All right, a quick one.
Okay.
You talked about trust. I know that there's Brown Act and there's a whole bunch of yucky stuff going on.
Yeah.
What would you do to develop that trust and get it back again?
I have deep relationships with the staff, so really just leaning into those things. And just to let you know, both Todd Spitzer's office and the ACLU have sent letters to our board alleging Brown Act violations. And the ACLU letter actually discussed First Amendment, violations of First Amendment rights of our community members, staff, and students. So for me, we have to get back to the point where the Brown Act is not a suggestion. We have open public meetings because it's an important part of our democracy. And so it comes back to that, respecting the rule of law and making sure that our staff is protected as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing statement.
Right now? I thought it was after.
We
Okay.
might
All
as well
right.
do one at a time.
Okay, closing statement, please.
Closing statement. So I just wanted to tell you a quick story. A couple of weeks ago, I went to do my candidate paperwork, and we take the oath when we file our paperwork. And I actually ended up in tears. It reminded me of when I was getting sworn in to the bar as a lawyer. I come to this with humility. It is a big job that I want to do to be a public servant, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. So I do want to say that one point to you all, that I appreciate the solemnity with which I have to approach this work, and that I want to do what generations of families have done so that my children can be successful in the school district, is that we have to pay it forward. And we have to do the work not just for my kids, but for the generation of kids that are coming after them. And so I come to it with that lens, and I ask humbly for your vote to the people that actually can vote in our school district, and for those of you who cannot, help me spread the word and let them know about me as a candidate. So thank you so much for your time.
Next, we have our candidate for El Toro Water District, Mike Gaskins.
Okay, 8 years ago, I stood up here and decided I was going to run for the board of directors for the El Toro Water District. And the club at that point, I think, was about 400 members. But the support that you gave me at that time got me elected. I'm absolutely confident of that. And so for the last 8 years, I've been a very active board member. And what you do when you've got an organization is you hire the best people you possibly can, and you get out of the way. And you make it happen. Dennis Cafferty, who's our general manager, is superb. If some of you have been to some of the presentations he and our head engineer, Hannah Ford, have given, you know what I'm talking about. We have just a superb group. Our board, there are 5 of us. There are 2 females, 3 males, and we get along really well. And even when we disagree, we're able to talk it through and come to some sort of consensus. Almost all of our votes are unanimous, which is interesting. We meet early in the morning, but we are broadcast, and if somebody wants to watch, please come. Or if you want to come in person, please join us. Since I've been on the board, we have a reservoir up in Mission Viejo, actually, but it's 25 acres, more than 125 million gallons of water that sits up there, and we had to replace the liner and the cover recently in the last 4 years, and that was a $25 million project. And we were able to float bonds and work with our neighbor water districts to fund that. There are ongoing projects. We're going to be replacing a sewer line that runs through the golf course, actually under the golf course, but well, we're going to be having to replace that because the material it's made of that was supposed to last forever doesn't, and there was a break, and so we have to make sure we don't break again. So we're going to be doing that. And then recently, a surprise came up in United that somebody said, sometimes I don't have any water pressure at all. Nothing comes out of my taps. And we go, what? Okay. And so our staff immediately got on it. We're going to be building a 500-foot pipeline and connect to a different section of our water supply so that they will always have sufficient water. But it's something we just simply didn't know about. And so I'm, of course, seeking your vote again. So. Okay.
Nice to meet you. All right, Mike. So in the press recently, there was talk about reduction in the amount of water from the Colorado River for us Californians. So does this mean that we're going to have to conserve water? And what about rate increases?
There are 2 sides to the water supply, Colorado River, which you mentioned, and Northern California. Northern California reservoirs are all full. We have 100% allocation of water coming to us from Northern California. the Colorado River is in trouble because it has to supply California, Arizona, Nevada, Wyoming, all the way up. And Lake Powell may go down to dead pool and not be able to produce any water through and no electricity coming through. This is supposed to be a strong El Nino year, and hopefully it's going to bring a lot of water to the Colorado Plateau. Mead is probably not going to get to dead pool, but certainly we're taking out less than California is taking out less than they're entitled to help the other states, the other basin states.
Do you see any rate increases in the short term?
No special rate increases. Every year we do an analysis of both our rates and the way the water is charged, et cetera. There will be increases. This year we're looking at pretty close to, I think we're 9% or so in the village. And that, of course, comes in on the HOA, so you don't really see a separate bill.
When does that happen?
You'll see it in January.
Okay. 9's better than 30. That's what I saw in the headlines. So.
Oh no, not 39. And we wish it could be 0, but
We do too.
yeah. A neighbor water district artificially said, nope, there will not be any increases. And all of a sudden they got hit with a 35% increase.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Okay, now there is some confusion here, so maybe you can help us. What's the difference between the El Toro Water District and the Municipal Water District of Orange County?
Municipal Water District of Orange County provides drinking water. They're a wholesaler. They take water from Metropolitan Water District, period, and become the Municipal Water District of Orange County. And their members, they distribute to their members. We're a member. They don't do anything with wastewater, and they don't do anything with reclaimed water. Our district does both wastewater. We treat when you flush the toilet or run the sink or the shower. We treat that. And then we reclaim a lot of it. It's used for irrigation. The golf course out here is an example.
Okay then. All right, so Mike, would you like to do your closing statement?
I came here, I'm hoping that you decide to vote for me, but no matter what, I want you to go out there and vote. Don't not go to the polls.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to bring up our mayor, Annie McCary.
So, good evening. My name is Annie McCary, and I am running for re-election to the Laguna Woods City Council. So, some of you may know me, and some of you may not. You may have seen me at council meetings, at some events, at the clubhouses, and throughout the community. I try to be every place as often as I can. But what I want to do is tell you about me and who I am and why I continue to serve this community. So, I grew up on a farm in Alabama. My birth order was 13 of 16 children. So growing up in a family that large, there was always work to be done. Everyone in the family had a role. I learned early on how to work hard, how to take responsibility, and look out for the rest of my family, my brothers and my sisters. We all looked out for one another. I took those values and I carried them with me through more than 40 years of working in the healthcare environment, where I learned the importance of service and compassion. I learned to listen, to work with other members of the team, solving problems, to look at the facts and understand that behind every issue is a person who is affected by any decision that I make or that I participate in as a group. Later on, when I moved to California, my husband and I volunteered at City Hall, where I learned how to work with people. I learned about the city and how the city runs and what goes into being a public servant. I spent some time working on Third Mutual Board as a resident, hearing people complaints, concerns, and everything. So I've learned how to work with people. And almost 4 years ago, there was an opening for someone at City Council, and my time is up, but I ran for City Council. I ran against an incumbent. I took my concerns to you, the voters, and you elected me as your City Council person, and so thank you for that vote.
All right, Annie. What accomplishments during your term are you the most proud of, and what do you believe needs more work?
Wow, what accomplishments. The city as a whole has some major accomplishments. One of them is opening up the new library, and it has just been a complete success, and it's just been really, really good for the community. Another thing that we've done most recently is I had a meeting, my city manager and a couple of, and our mayor pro tem met with people from the State Assembly and also from California Fish and Wildlife to come up with a plan on how to address the issue of aggressive coyotes. And so that work is still going, but I'm really proud of what we have done. We've also passed an ordinance about wildlife feeding. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm really proud that those things are going forward. And then the last thing I'm really proud of is that we've made some movement toward opening and bringing in the new fire station on Moulton Parkway, which is going to be really, really significant for this community.
I was going to ask you about that, so why don't you spend a couple more minutes or 1 minute talking about the fire station?
Well, the fire station, it takes quite a bit of time for the fire station. We just have one fire station, Station 21, that serves the entire city of Laguna Woods, plus some of the other surrounding counties. And so it takes an average of sometimes up to 7 to 9 minutes for the fire station to get to certain portions of Laguna Woods. And so having this new fire station is really going to be very valuable. The city we've done our part in terms of moving forward. Now the ball is in the court of the Orange County Fire Authority. We've signed all of the contracts and things are moving forward. But the ball is in their court now.
Do you want to tell people where is it located?
It's on Moulton Parkway, right there at City Center Drive, right? Moulton Parkway. There, I'm getting my directions over there, off of Moulton.
From the Ayers Hotel.
From the Ayers Hotel, off of Moulton Parkway is the main entrance into that.
Okay, thank you, Annie. Would you like to do your closing statement?
I had so much more to say, but I will do. Okay, so serving on the Laguna Woods City Council for the past 3 years and having the privilege of serving as mayor has been one of the greatest honors of my life. It has given me the opportunity to get to know our community in a much deeper way, not only through city council meetings, but through attending community events, celebrating milestones with residents, and listening to their concerns. During my time on council, I've developed a strong relationship with council members, city staff, regional and neighboring partners. This experience has strengthened my understanding of what effective local leadership requires. Good governance begins with listening, thoughtful decision-making, collaboration, and commitment. You voted for me almost 4 years ago to be on the city council, so I'm humbly asking for your vote again for my re-election to the Laguna Woods City Council. And when the ballots come out, vote early, vote for Annie McCary for City Council, and you can take a taxi cab down to City Hall to drop your ballot in the box.
All right, I would like to bring up Sue Kwam, who is also running for City Council.
All right. For those of you who don't know me, I currently serve as Vice President of the Laguna Woods United Board. We represent about 9,000 people, and we have a budget of $65 million that we use per year to operate our side of the village. So we also have about $17 to $20 million in our reserves. So we manage very large budgets, and we set those budgets based on need and service level agreements. The city budget is around $10 million, and they too have many different responsibilities that they need to enact. My background is I have a master's in public administration with an emphasis in city administration. I have 4 years of leadership on the United Board, and a combined 30 years in public administration, legislative affairs, strategic planning, and project management. So what do I want to accomplish over the next 4 years? Well, we are lucky enough to have new money in the city. The city gets revenue from the sale of cannabis. Last month, they sold about $1.6 million. We tax that at 10%. So we pulled in about $160,000 for our purposes to be used. And we must use this new cannabis tax revenue to expand services, including subsidizing transportation and programs for seniors and low-income residents. We need to work as a community to decide what we want and how we're going to spend those funds. Another thing that I want to work on is expediting the fire station. There's no reason we can't beat that date of December 2029. We have our own inspector. We can help with that issue and moving things forward. We have friends and colleagues in the water department, which we will need, and we also are strongly supported by the Orange County Fire Department. So I think there are many things that we can do together. Okay.
So Sue, I know you touched on your background. Could you expand a little bit more on your leadership potential and what you would do as a city councilman?
Oh, sure. What we've done when I came to Laguna Woods, I did not want to serve on the board. I absolutely did not want to serve on the board. I thought it was a wreck. There were so many people who were fighting and screaming at each other, and I just thought I just did not retire to do this. And then people were begging me, please consider doing this. With your experience and background, you can bring some calmness and some sanity to the situation, and you need to get other like-minded people to run and do that as well. And we got lucky. We had a number of people that were sick of the situation and stepped up to come in and try to address that. And we had many challenges on that. The former boards had decided to take money out of our reserves to use for operating, just wanted to use that for operating. Well, you can't be doing that. You run a deficit. And so we have had to rebuild those reserves. So it's not fun to go out and say we have to raise money in order to promote our village, but you do. So those are things that were hard, but I'm proud of.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I go to city council meetings and there's a whole lot of empty chairs. What would you do to encourage residents to attend city council meetings and become engaged?
Well, first of all, I'd make them more interesting. I would. I think they're very staid and they have things that they need to do. I understand that, but there are some more interesting projects that we can talk about and discuss as well. And I also think that we need to have it publicized, and there's no reason TV6 couldn't go over there and record it and have participation. It's not just having a bottom in a seat, it's putting that on Zoom and having people be able to participate. So I would do that. And I would ask people to come in and work on these city projects, like the cannabis money. How do you want to spend it? Let's get together and do that. Let's also think about how we're going to control the coyotes in our village, and how can we work together, and how can we secure funding and do it on a steady basis to make sure that our residents and our pets can safely go on a walk.
Okay. Your closing statement, please.
Oh, okay. Well, on your tables, I got a little windy, and I have 8 bullet points that I would like to try to accomplish over the next 4 years with the esteemed members of the council. And included in that, we talked about the cannabis revenue, the El Toro Road, the golf cart paths. When I did a search and said, what are the biggest issues around here? And they said they really want good golf cart paths. Okay, we can do that. We need to expand technology with timely repairs and improve traffic light effectiveness. I don't know how many, I think I've lost years of my life waiting at gate 2 and gate 4 to get out onto El Toro Road. So we can work with them to try to adjust that timing. We need to also they're working on this right now, and I'm so happy they are. They're going to work on a small dog park. But the big thing for us, and this is something, I like to say things that are measurable. This is not measurable, but it's absolutely imperative that we do this. In 2032, Social Security and Medicare are on the chopping block. We are going to run out of money, and there's going to be severe cuts. Now, I know the City Council doesn't get to vote on this, but we have a lot of sway with the congressional delegation. And so we need to be working in coalitions to ask our congressional delegation every time we see them, what are you doing to help us? And every time a person walks in this door and asks for your help, you need to say, what are you going to do for us? And I think that's only fair.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, candidates. The next part of our program is going to be discussing ballot measures. Now, like I said before, there's a handout on the table. There's 14 of them. We're going to have Jonathan Adler, our legislative committee chair, come up. He's going to talk about the first 4. Now, he'll talk about each one, and after each one, if you have a question, we'll take questions at that time. When we get to number 5, Mr. Newman will be here to present that proposition. And then hopefully we can get through the rest of them without having everyone fall asleep, because Jonathan's not going to talk that long, I promise.
Good evening, Democrats. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. So, I am going to talk about ballot initiatives. One by one, we're going to talk about what they are, what they do. But before that, I'm going to talk a little bit about something a lot more important that applies to every ballot measure in this cycle and every cycle. And you're going to have to take notes, because this is really important. But wait a minute. I prepared the Cliff Notes for you of what I'm going to say. It's the sand-colored or tan-colored thing on your table. What makes all this significant is that we have never been in a more partisan situation in the legislature and with advocacy groups. On the chart, in the right-hand column, the support and oppose things are the positions taken by the California Democratic Party, hereinafter CDP, remember that, on August 2nd. In between conventions, the executive board is the governing board of CDP. We looked at all of their positions, and we had no trouble, Laguna Woods Democratic Club, had no trouble supporting all of them. There are 320 members of the E-board of CDP, and it was unanimous. 2/3 of them are elected by ordinary grassroots Democrats. So because there is such partisanship, I want to mention one more thing. I chair our club's Legislative Action Committee and co-chair Democratic Party of Orange County's Legislative Committee. In the last 4 months, we've picked roughly 25 bills that we thought were important, and then looked at the votes in the legislature. And believe it or not, on none of them, nor on any of the ballot measures that the legislature put on this ballot, which are called referenda, no Democrat voted no, and all of the no votes were Republican. That's how partisan things are, which actually makes it easier, because my first firm piece of advice is see how it got on the ballot. Look at its supporting groups and its opponents, and know who they are. Trust the groups you've always trusted. These bills passed as I said, with all Democratic votes aye, no Democratic no votes, all the no votes Republican. That means learning who the opponents are because they, for years, have voted the same way. I'm saying beware of unknown groups with nice sounding names, like the Alliance for Kittens and Puppies and Californians for Motherhood, Apple Pie, and Ice Cream. If you're in any doubt, Google the name, and Mr. Google's AI machine will tell you all about them. Now, for now, be aware that I'm going to talk also about 5 tax bills. Be aware that the far-right anti-tax, anti-spending, anti-services, smallest state and local government groups are named the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, the California Taxpayers Association, Reform California, and another one that you'll find on the list. Also, be aware that when it comes to voting rights, the right-wing voter suppression groups are named the Election Integrity Project and Reform California. The protectors of voting rights are called the Voter Protection Project. I've been trained and served as that for many years. So be aware of those names. Now, the last thing I want to say is also be aware that corporations with billions of dollars in profits or costs at stake, they will spend mere millions to buy ballot spots, and then during the campaign, a few $100 million on lies in slick mailers and media ads. So be aware of that. Now, Prop 1, how's my time, Alan? I over? Okay, huh? All right, so read the table. There are bonds. The cost of bonds is usually a point against them, but they fail to account for the fact that bonds are multipliers. They cause secondary and tertiary jobs and income. Housing bonds for 1, stabilization funds on 2. 3 makes permanent the current highest bracket of taxes that would otherwise sunset in 2031, and the highest bracket would drop down from 12.3 to 9.3% on income over $1.4 million for couples, $721K for individuals. And Prop 4 gives all localities the option, the choice, to do clean money elections. Okay, and we support all of those. And so does CDP, and so do a number of groups. And there are more groups that are not listed. The yellow sheet I prepared because yesterday or today the Secretary of State just posted the Bible, the voter information guide that would be mailed in hard copy at from anywhere from September 24th to October 13th. We can read it now online. The URL, the link is on the yellow sheet, and every day more groups join and take positions. They are updated, and the yellow sheet tells you where to look to update all of these on a day-by-day basis. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the great, the indomitable Josh Newman. I'm sorry. All right, look. All right, wait a minute. Does anybody have a question about these recommendations that the CDP and we have for Props 1 through 4 only? Not an argument on the merits, but a question about what they do. And you can rest comfortably because this is so partisan that every Democrat in the legislature and the California Democratic Party who's looked at it has taken a support position which we gladly have followed. Okay. Question, shout it out if you have one. Good. Thank you. And now the moment you've been waiting for. The great, the indomitable Josh Newman.
Tough act to follow. Thank you, and evening, everybody. So nice to be here, and thank you for having me. So I'm Josh Newman, and from 2016 to 2024, can you hear me now? Yes. All right. I'm Josh, last name Newman, and I had the privilege of serving as a state senator from 2016 to 2024, and in 2024. Really grateful to the Laguna Woods Democratic Club if you folks supported me. If everybody in South County had been as smart as this club, I'd still be in the state senate. So thank you. Thank you for that. But I'm here this evening to talk about Prop 5, and if passed, it'll reform California's state-level recall process. It was one of the last measures I worked on, State Senate Constitutional Amendment number 1, which passed in 2024 with 2/3 support in both houses. As Jonathan mentioned, every Democrat supported it. And let me give you some really quick history, as you folks may know. So the recall was one of a suite of 3 direct democracy measures that were implemented at the urging of progressives in 1911, at a time when Sacramento was dominated by special interests, particularly the railroads, and the need was seen for a direct democracy safety valve, as it were, so that the people, if they didn't have a voice in Sacramento, could overrule the legislature. The recall, as you know, is a 2-part question. The first question is, should Governor Jonathan Adler be recalled from office? Yes, no. I'll leave that to you folks to decide. But there's the immediate second question that follows is, if Governor Adler is recalled, whom would you choose to replace him immediately? And it is that question, the presence of that second question, that in my observation and others, creates the incentive to gin up recalls and to get out of a special election what the proponents of recall could never get out of the regular election process. So the best example of that is 2021, where a group of right-wing folks from the north of California secured first the money and then the signatures, and they were given an extension because of COVID by a judge, to qualify the recall against Governor Newsom on the ballot. And that recall failed, and Governor Newsom beat it by about the same margins as he won election and re-election. But had he not, our governor right now would be Governor Larry Elder, who is a conservative talk show host with absolutely zero experience in governing, would have been the governor of the largest state in the union and the 4th largest economy in the world. I can promise you that might not have worked out very well. Following that recall effort, the Senate and the Assembly elections committees convened some hearings to talk about, what can we do to make sure that these direct democracy processes work and work in the service of small d democracy. And we discussed a bunch of options. One option that was proposed was to articulate an explicit standard of what might or might not qualify for a recallable offense. Another proposed option was to raise the threshold, the number of signatures that would be required to qualify a recall. And then there were some others, but each of those alternatives had a problem because they could be received by voters, by Californians, as self-interested, as politicians protecting themselves. In thinking about the recall myself, and as you know, I've had my own experience, I asked a very simple question: is if we could do one thing that would ensure that the recall was still an important measure of democratic expression, what would it be? And the answer, I think, to that is to remove that second question. The reason the second question was there in the first place was in 1911, there was no assurance that if you kicked out the governor or a constitutional officer or legislature, that those same special interests might not replace that elected official with like. But the world changes very quickly. And what we've seen in the last 100 years is, as you know, politics is very different. Partisanship, as Jonathan mentioned, is really extreme. And so what we'd like to see is you still need a measure to make sure that a corrupt or malfeasant or otherwise unfaithful elected official is still subject to the voters' will. And I think the best way to do that and the legislature agreed, is to put before the voters the option of removing that second question. What it would do is it would restore the recall to a very simple tool, but an effective tool to ensure the integrity and probity of elected officials. But what it would do is, again, it would take out that incentive. It would also prevent that scenario of the replacement being elected with far from majority support, which I think we can all agree is a problem. And so, per the proposition, in the event that it passes, instead of that second question, if the governor were to be recalled, the governor would be replaced by the lieutenant governor, in the same manner as if the governor left office for some other reason. If a constitutional officer, the treasurer, the controller, the lieutenant governor, if they were to be recalled, they would be replaced in the same manner as if they left office for some other reason. They would be their successor would be appointed by the governor until the next scheduled election. If a state-level legislator were recalled, he or she would be replaced in the normal order, the same as if they left office for some other reason. And in doing that, we can ensure that we still have the tool, the voters still have the voice, but we take out dark money, political partisanship, and dirty tricks from the recall process. So this is a measure that's supported by Common Cause, by the League of Women Voters, by the California Democratic Party, by the California Labor Federation, and hopefully by the Laguna Woods Democratic Club as well. So thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Newman?
Yes, sir.
Here, wait.
Another possible added ingredient to a recall, you think there should have to be a reason to recall somebody, not just a petition.
We discussed this, and you get into subjective territory. And so, the problem is if you go to the California voters and say, hey, we'd like to make it harder to recall an elected official, that sort of smacks of insidership. So, I think the best way is let the threshold be met, let's have the discussion, but let's not let the second question drive the first, which is what we've seen in recent recalls. Gray Davis, Governor Newsom, a guy named Josh Newman.
Anyone else have questions? Back here? Hang on, I'll bring your mic.
Would the lieutenant governor then become governor if the governor was removed?
That is correct.
And would he become? And you talked about an election. Would there be a special election or the next regular governor election?
Under the terms of Prop 5, thank you for the question. If the governor were to be recalled in the first 2 years of administration, there would be a special election in that 2-year cycle to replace or validate his replacement or her replacement. Somebody else asked a question. What if the governor is recalled and the lieutenant governor also is recalled? It gets tricky there. And so if the governor's recalled, the lieutenant governor then becomes governor, gets to appoint his or her replacement. This will never happen in California. So, and we do have the peculiar kind of situation in California where lieutenant governor and the governor run as separately. So, there is a theoretical possibility, people have pointed out, that you could have a governor and a lieutenant governor from a different party. And then lieutenant governor could come up with an evil plan to get rid of the governor. Also never going to happen. But, we should consider maybe, as with other states, the lieutenant governor and the governor should run as a slate, and that would be a separate proposition.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I read in that, okay, if you had a recall, say your treasurer was recalled, and so the governor appointed a new treasurer, then on the next cycle, in the next cycle where you vote for the governor, vote for the treasurer that was recalled is still able to run again.
Right. So a recall is a political, what?
If they were recalled, so
Yeah.
half the state didn't want them.
Right.
Okay, and the other half did. So if he gets to get right back on the ballot, your treasurer could be the treasurer
Only if more than half of the voters want to return that person to office. But you know, typically use the Newsom recall. You know, it's a political question.
Newsom was different because he had the lieutenant governor to take that.
Well, what I'm trying to say, this is a political question, not a legal question. And so as it stands right now, the target of the recall cannot be an alternative. And let me give you a good example. When I was recalled in 2018, thanks to the good work of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, I was actually, you know, I got 42% by way of no, don't kick him out. My replacement, Ling Ling Shang, got 31% by way of yes, let's hire her. And then I was reelected in 2020 by a fairly convincing margin with 53%. You know, these are political questions. Every electorate is different. But, you know, I'd argue that was a miscarriage or a misuse of the process. But, you know, in the event that somebody gets recalled, if somebody loses an election now, they have every right to run again. But the voters typically make the right choice in not reinstalling that person.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, all right, say okay, so you were out, so you ran again on the next election and you were elected. What would stop those people from trying to boot you out again for the same reasons?
I guess.
How much does this cost the California tax?
Well, let me answer the question a different way. Had it not been for the second question, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. Right? They wouldn't have done it. It was the ability to get somebody elected with a small plurality to break the Democratic supermajority. That was why I was a target, having won a very narrow election in Orange County. Had we not had the second question, never happens, right? Which probably means that you will not have recalls in California if you don't have the second question, unless it's really an issue of malfeasance or incompetence, you know, at kind of a major scale. Thank you.